Thank you for joining us for our presentation on specialty testing. And I just want to add that this is an area that I am very, very passionate about. I think that it's so important to always dig deeper, look at the foundational issues, because I give the analogy over and over again. If you don't treat the foundation, you will never be able to get to where you need to be. And a good analogy of that is the root of a tree. And we call it the root cause. We call it so many different things that indicate this, but we have to get to the whys. We have to get to the reasons why you have food cravings, why you gain weight when you go on a restricted calorie diet, why you can't sleep at night, why are you so stressed? Those are things that again, we just need to dig a little deeper. So I'm going to walk you through a number of our tests that we offer. And again, if you watched the previous presentation, you saw the similar slide, but the first test is our MRT, which is a mediated release test. That is our food sensitivity test. I will then talk a little bit about our Dutch test, which is our comprehensive hormone test. Then I will talk about our Nutribell, which is a test that looks at our gut health, our oxidative stress markers, and nutrient deficiencies. And then the last one noted here is a GIMap. That is a stool test, and that is a comprehensive look at the gut microbiome. So I first wanted to start out by talking about the gut. We are made up of many different organisms, and it's very hard for people to kind of comprehend this. We have millions, trillions of human cells. We actually have 10 times more bacterial cells. We are actually more bacteria than we are human, believe it or not. We have organisms everywhere, but the majority of them reside in our digestive tract. So you can see here that is the gut of the body, the digestive tract. You have the colon, which is also referred to as the large intestine, and then you have the small intestine, which is kind of squished, in between there, and it is actually much longer than the colon and serves a very different purpose. But if I were to take samples, do biopsies, look deeper, such as like our GIMap, we are going to find things that conventional medicine is not looking at. So these things are foundationally so crucial to your health. And specifically these areas. So bacteria, I say bacteria, but it could be bacteria, it could be yeast, it could be fungus, it could be viruses. It's just a number of different organisms that affect, number one, our immune system, which I will talk about in more detail. It affects how we absorb and utilize vitamins and minerals. It affects our metabolism. There are certain microbes that are going to help with breaking down food, breaking down fats, they're breaking down carbohydrates. There are certain microbes that will help us burn fat. So that's why, if you look at the newer research, they show that if you inoculate a really healthy bacteria strain into another human, they actually lose weight just by having different bacteria. Another part is inflammation. Our gut microbiome, or what's also referred to as gut flora, plays a major, major role in inflammatory diseases, including inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and that type of thing. And last but not least, which is what most people do not think about, is the gut-brain connection. And it is so significant that they finally are starting to look beyond just the brain and looking at neurotransmitters and looking at certain things that we're used to looking at for people that have Alzheimer's and autism and dementia. we know now that there is inflammation in the gut that's causing inflammation in the brain, because there is this gut-brain connection, and they are so tightly regulated and correlated with one another. So let's talk a little bit about our food sensitivity test. So it's called the MRT, and again, it stands for mediator release test. This is a blood test that is going to identify certain foods that cause a reaction to your cells. So it involves the immune system, and it involves an inflammatory response. So every time you eat certain foods, because the state of your gut is not in a perfect state of health, food now has become a problem. So we have to identify those foods so that we can remove them and the gut has time to heal. So, you know, there are certain people that would be good candidates for a food sensitivity test. I think everyone needs to do it because everyone has some sensitivities. It's just a matter of if you're identifying that, if you're, you know, thinking that it's, oh, something else that you ate. Everyone has food sensitivities. Unfortunately, in this day and age, our guts are very compromised. So a good candidate, you know, a no-brainer for me, for someone who really needs a food sensitivity test, is someone who suffers from migraines and headaches. If you've been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, another no-brainer. Frequent diarrhea or constipation, heartburn, just like indigestion, you know, certain things like that. Skin problems is huge, and joint and muscle pain. And again, what we're trying to do is calm down the immune system and get rid of the inflammation. All diseases begin with inflammation. So over time, this inflammation just gets worse if you don't remove the problem. And I'm not saying that food is the only problem. There's multiple things, but this is definitely going to get you and put you ahead of the game and really addressing and getting better. You can see from that graph in the upper right that food sensitivities have been tied to every single one of these disease states. So metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, musculoskeletal, which is also autoimmune, dermatology, you know, like I said, skin rashes, psoriasis. These are all due to food sensitivities because the gut is compromised. GI, and of course neurological, which is the brain. You see the chart below. So this is just an example of something that you would get in the report. And it's going to lay out 180 different foods, chemicals that are in our food today, and which ones are causing a lot of harm. So this next slide is basically just showing you that when we're helping you through this eating plan from the food sensitivity test, it is a very strategic phased process, because the goal is not to say, okay, here's your plan, you will no longer eat those foods again. The goal is to heal the gut, get you to a place where food is no longer an enemy, and you are going to be able to determine, you know, what foods can you add back in, what foods do you think you probably just should continue to avoid. And those things, and those are practical approaches. Those can be so life-changing for people that, again, it's one of those things where, you know, if you are suffering from some of those things, you would consider this test. So the next test that I'm going to go through is the GIMap. This is a stool test that assesses the microbiome with special attention on overgrowth of unhealthy pathogens or organisms. So parasites, certain bacteria, yeast or fungus, and viruses. This test is so comprehensive, but this is just giving you an idea of what we're gonna be able to identify once you do this test. The integrity of your gut barrier. Ultimately, we have got to keep your gut strong. So it's going to tell you how compromised your gut is. It's going to tell you how compromised your immune system is. The immune system, 80% of the immune cells sit in the gut, just waiting for things to come in. And now that has become very compromised because I always explain it to people like this. The gut lining is like a screen. When it has holes in it, it's just like a screen. Bugs get in, things get in that you don't want in, and that's what has essentially happened to our gut and allowing things into circulation. It's going to look at our digestive health, enzymes, and it will also look at the level of inflammation. This test actually looks at very specific bacteria that promote very specific diseases. So I just gave this one as an example, autoimmune conditions, because it's just such a pandemic right now. So if you have MS, it will identify the bacteria that is actually attacking the joints that's causing your MS symptoms. So it is, like I said, these tests can be life-changing. It has changed a lot of lives with the patients and just our staff and family members that we've worked with. So I kind of gave you the analogy a second ago, but maybe this helps. I apologize, it's a little unclear, but the slide to the left is a very healthy gut barrier. So the blue, you can see the blue cells there. That's a 1 layer thick cellular wall that basically keeps out the stuff that we do not want to get into circulation, where the body will have to absorb and either keep or excrete through bowel movements. But essentially what has happened over time is you can see that light green level, that light green area above the blue cells, that's a mucosal layer. And that mucosa has really deteriorated for so many different reasons, because it could be for bad diet, it can be for reasons of extreme stress, which could be extreme exercise. A lot of athletes have significant gut issues because it's a physical stress in the body. It could be from certain medications that you're taking. So there's a lot of different reasons why that function is deteriorating. So if you look at the right, now you can see the mucosal layer is diminished. So when that happens, the cells begin to open. And when the cells begin to open, things get into our bloodstream that should not get into our bloodstream. So this is why autoimmunity has taken on a new level of significance, and so many other chronic diseases of inflammation. Who is a good candidate for a GIMap? A lot of people. So chronic constipation or diarrhea, autoimmune disease, without a doubt. A history of IBS or some type of surgery. So if you had your gallbladder removed, you had a colon removed, you had your appendix removed, if you have asthma or breathing issues, if you have skin rashes or just brittle hair, nails, skin. Again, we talked about food sensitivities or allergies. Mold is a big one for us. We have a lot of people coming to us because they can't lose weight, and we later find out they have been exposed to mold for so long that the body is in like this protective mode of just hanging onto water to dilute certain things. And once we address the foundational issue, the weight starts to come off. If you just have overall generalized feelings of digestive discomfort, fullness, you eat something small and you get bloated right away. So that would be another reason to do this test. This gives you an example of what the GIMap results would look like. So we're looking, do you have parasites? Do you have worms? Are there enough enzymes you're producing? So again, a very short summary of what the comprehensive test is, but it again can be very important for people that are dealing with some of those symptoms. Our Nutribell is a test that's going to evaluate the functional need for antioxidants, the vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, amino acids, digestive support, and other select nutrients. So essentially, we're looking at what is your body deficient in. It's also going to look at metabolic markers. So are you absorbing? Do you have dysbiosis or an imbalance of your good bacteria and your bad bacteria? It also is going to look at yeast and fungal imbalances. We're going to look at the way that your body is metabolizing carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And what I really love about this test is it will look at your neurotransmitter levels, which people think of neurotransmitters in the brain, but it's actually majority is produced in your gut. And so it will tell you what neurotransmitters are deficient. And then it will also tell you what your detoxification system is looking like as well, because at the end of the day, our body has a detoxification system. We just have to make sure that it is working for us and it's not overloaded. Because if it's overloaded, we have to fix that first. Because if you start a program that's going to kind of start killing off some of the bad stuff and your detox systems are not working, well, you could actually do more harm than good. So this is a great one for people who have either just had a bad, unhealthy lifestyle or have, lived in a toxic environment. So a lot of great information here as well. This will give you an idea of what some of those results will look like. So you can see malabsorption and dysbiosis markers, neurotransmitter metabolites, vitamin markers, toxin and detox markers, cellular energy and mitochondria. The mitochondria is another huge area. That is essentially the health of your cells. So again, great information here. Who's a good candidate? Anyone who has chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, digestive issues. So if you have constant reflux, cough, just indigestion, pain is a big area for this. So whether that be migraines or musculoskeletal joint pain. If you're worried about your cardiovascular health, this can be very helpful if you are having issues losing weight or if you are looking to optimize your health. So we actually have quite a few athletes that will do this test, especially for the nutrients, and that includes my boys, who I have them doing all these tests, including myself. But when you exercise so much, people kind of tie athletes into health, and it's not true at all, because of the body doesn't recognize different stresses. So if I was, on a desert island and had no access to food, or if I was training for a triathlon, the body doesn't differentiate that level of stress. So the body is burning up nutrients so quickly, and replacing that is key. And the last test I'll talk about is the Dutch test, which is the dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. This test is amazing as well. So typically we are doing this test for not older, but maybe like 35 plus, maybe 40 plus, or anyone who has like a lot of stress, because it looks at, cortisol patterns, melatonin, so if you're having sleep issues, androgen metabolites, your basic hormone panel, so your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, and again, estrogen and cortisol levels. So this can be very helpful we know people that are having more hormonal issues. However, it's a kind of a holistic approach, because you can address a lot just with cleaning up the gut as well. So a good candidate for this would be anyone has a lot of stress and adrenal fatigue, or they can't sleep at night. someone who's been diagnosed with PCOS, insulin resistance, they are having a really hard time getting pregnant, they have fibroids or endometriosis, painful periods. Anyone who's taking hormone replacement therapy, yes, this is a good test for them. Maybe it's someone who's is experiencing hot flashes, weight gain, or just the inability to lose weight. So that is a summary of our tests that we offer. So again, you know, pulling this all together, you saw some of the options for maintenance, the maintenance programs, which would be more of the weight loss roadmap. We have our specialty testing, which again, more information can also be provided if you saw something that hits you. And we have our system survey assessment and recommendation. So that's more of our nutrition supplementation, consultation. And really, if you are the type of person that really needs to start thinking about how can I incorporate more meditation and mindfulness in my life, this is something that we can support because it really is so important. And the last thing is, how will you incorporate more activity in your life? So hopefully that was helpful, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.